let's see if I can do a video with absolutely no notes and make it semi-coherent. Hello everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. Sometimes it's hard being a Sound of Music fangirl. Today is the 56th anniversary of The Sound of Music's release to theatres, and it was only the other day that was the 60th, I believe, anniversary of when the musical started its tour. So it seems like today's a pretty good day to talk about all this. Now before we go any further, I just need to get it out of the way. I am not gatekeeping in this video, and I really hope it doesn't come across that I am at any point. But unfortunately I feel like that could be a possibility and I might sound a bit like that. If you love Sound of Music at all, you're a Sound of Music fan. Full stop, case closed. If you love anything in any way, you're a fan. That's all there is to it. If you're a fan, that's all that matters. I am just a certain type of fan. And the type of fan I am, sometimes it's lonely. I'm the fan that reads fanfiction and writes fanfiction and watches fan videos and is far more interested in all the backstory and the stuff that we don't get to see in the film, rather than just the 3 hours that is the movie itself, because to me that's very limited. But obviously I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority. For a lot of people, all that Sound of Music means to them, all it has to mean to them, is that they absolutely love watching the movie. And that's perfectly valid. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But with that being the case, there are less people I can talk to about Sound of Music in the way I want to talk about it. I was at the dentist the other week, and I actually don't mind going to the dentist. Yeah, it's horrible when he pokes around your mouth with instruments, but my dentist, and particularly his receptionist, are huge Sound of Music fans. So that always comes up every time I go to the dentist. And when I walked in the other week, one of the first things the receptionist said to me was how she just learned that Christopher Plummer had been dubbed for the movie. So I told her that the guy who did the dubbing was called Bill Lee, and she looked up Christopher on the computer right then and there, and she learned that his name actually isn't Christopher Plummer, it's actually Arthur Christopher Orne Plummer. And after that I was just about to say something. I can't remember what it was at all, but she started talking about something else, and I wasn't able to say it because the conversation had moved on. And it was only a few days later that Christopher died. R.I.P. You'll be loved, missed, and remain forever 34 in the minds of middle-aged housewives everywhere. And that's another reason I think being a Sound of Music fangirl has been hard for me, particularly in recent years. Back 5 or 6 years ago it was a lot easier, because while the fanfiction community wasn't big, it was very tight-knit, and now it has mostly dwindled to nothing. I understand why. Life happens and suddenly writing stories about a movie that's 50 years old is not crucial. But after that happened, I felt like I lost something, which in turn led to lack of investment on my part. And something's gone and you've got so few people to talk about it, it's hard to care about it in a way. But The Sound of Music isn't still my favourite thing in the world. It is. But it has definitely taken a backseat in the past few years. Really ever since I listened to Hamilton. Hamilton has a fandom that is very different and much bigger, and it is therefore easier to love in the geeky way I love everything. Another huge part of it is when Sound of Music came out 56 years ago. Back in 1965, fandom wasn't a thing the way it is now. So there was no big fandom for Sound of Music when it first came out, the way there are for so many things that come out today right off the bat. Back then, Sound of Music was just a movie that made everybody feel so much happier and provided a lot of beautiful escapism. For 3 hours they didn't have to think about the state of the world and the Vietnam War and everything that was happening. That was all Sound of Music was back in 1965. That was all it needed to be. But because that's all it was when it first came out, that type of love has trickled down over the years and over the generations. So I don't really think it got to have a solid fandom the way other things did. Not that it doesn't have one. Even now, when that tight-knit fanfiction community I was part of before has dwindled to basically nothing, the forum that I was a part of is still very much active, though it is an entirely new group of people. And I still love being on those boards. They're so much fun. It's a community that is very much the same and very different at the same time, but because it is different, I still feel like I've lost something, and that in turn leads to less interest and less investment on my part. I love going to those forums, but I certainly find myself going to them a lot less than I did before. And that's also kind of why it's hard for me to make Sound of Music videos. I find making videos about something like Hamilton, or even Julie herself, much easier. But that's just because, hello, I'm Georgia. I first saw The Sound of Music when I was 2 years old. My favourite song is the title song, and Julie Andrews is my favourite actress. Does not make for good video content. And that seems to be a huge percentage of what I see from Sound of Music fans on places like Facebook. The official Sound of Music Facebook group had a huge influx of members a few months ago, and I ended up having to unfollow the group. I'm still a part of it, but I had to end up unfollowing it because every second post on my timeline was just a post saying, I love Sound of Music. And just scrolling through it a bit before I started making this video, at least half of the few posts I saw were just pictures. No caption or description on the post saying why the poster likes this, just an image from the film or behind the scenes. It didn't tell me anything about the person who posted it. I wouldn't even know where to start with commenting some sort of response to a post like that. I am never going to say that I know everything about Sound of Music. My last video was about the deleted scenes of Sound of Music, and I mentioned how there was this one beautiful line in Climb Every Mountain that was in the original script, but not in the final film. And I mentioned how it was also in the musical, except it wasn't. And that is the line I've only ever heard in NBC Live. In every other version of the musical I've seen, when the Reverend Mother asks Maria whether she likes the captain in Climb Every Mountain, Maria simply says yes, but the original script of the movie and NBC Live had something different. And somebody in the comments of that video told me that that line was in the original version of the musical with Mary Martin, and it was changed a bit later on. I did not know that, so I'm never going to say I know everything. But Sound of Music is far more than my favourite movie, and as far as conversation goes, it's far more than an icebreaker. And there are very few people I can talk to about Sound of Music for any length of time before it devolves into small talk and gossip and other things my autistic self hates. Most people don't want to talk about a movie in any depth for that long. And with so few people to do that with, it's lonely. That's a very big reason why Sound of Music has been pushed to the back and taken a backseat to Hamilton for the past few years. Because with the type of geeky way I love everything, it's a lot harder to love in that geeky way. And it does make me very sad. But I do know 100% that Sound of Music is still my favourite thing in the world, and that Hamilton has merely joined it and not overtaken it. There was a little while back where I was having a very bad day. I don't remember what it was that was making me so upset, but to cheer myself up, I opened up my phone and pulled up YouTube, and I was just about to look for a video of Lynn being cute, but then I stopped myself and I put on The Landler instead. And I honestly don't think putting a video of Lynn on would have cheered me up quite as quickly as putting that video of The Landler on. It's harder to love Sound of Music, and in a way I have to force myself to love it. Though when it comes to watching the movie, that has been the case for a while. Probably 2 years ago on this day, I would be watching the movie right now. It was at the beginning of 2019, I believe, was when I stopped watching Sound of Music once a month. Before that, I had been watching it once a month for I don't know how many years. And that was because I figured, hey, it's my favourite movie, of course I'll want to watch it that often. That stripped the film itself of its magic for me. But I only watched it twice last year, and it meant so much more to me. But those two viewings last year were so much more special than many other viewings that I'd had in the past. But that's another way I have to kind of force myself to interact with Sound of Music. Because planning viewings like that for so long meant I'd forgotten how to want to watch this movie. I never wake up and think I want to watch Sound of Music because my brain has forgotten that that's a thing that you can do. I mean, the movie's 3 hours long, so you have to plan it in a little sense. Watching Sound of Music is not something spontaneous that I can do. That's partly because it's 3 hours long, but it's also partly because of how much I structured myself. So I guess I kind of worked myself into a corner. So I think it's probably partly my fault. So my big question is really, if you watch my channel for Sound of Music content, what would you like to see? Because of all this, it is occasionally hard to think up of Sound of Music video ideas. I do have a few ideas. You know, I turned my final university paper into this sort of series comparing the Montrose through all their adaptation. But the first part of that essay was, I guess, a bit of a history lesson. So I guess I could turn that into a video. I did get the DVD of The Trap Family in the mail a little while ago, and I want to do a review of those two movies, and especially want to talk about how it's basically the missing link between Maria's memoir and Sound of Music. So I do have a few ideas, but at the same time it's kind of hard to think of too many. So if you watch my videos for Sound of Music specifically, what would you like to see? Happy anniversary, Sound of Music. Happy anniversary for the tour for a few days ago. And RIP Christopher Plummer. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long, farewell!